Hello and happy 2025. My name is Mariambo and this is Health and Lifestyle, where we promise to bring you stories and experts to explain health conditions that you or your loved ones may face. Our social media handles as usual at Mariambo at KBC Channel 1 on X and KBC Channel 1 TV on Facebook. Before we talk to Dr. Lina Yekande, let's take a look at what to expect when you visit your general practitioner. Going for a physical health check is an important step in monitoring your health. Once at the doctor's office, the normal procedure is to check your vitals. The blood pressure is a key indicator of your health.
90/60 on the minimum side to 139/89 on the maximum. From 140/90 and above, that would indicate that your blood pressure is a bit elevated. So you need to monitor it to determine whether it's the illness that is causing the pressure to go high and find out why that reading will be high at that time. If the subsequent readings are okay, then we consider that the illness that the patient had is what caused the blood pressure to be high. This one, we check your oxygen saturation.
Using a device called pulse oximeter, the nurse then checks your blood oxygen level or blood oxygen saturation. This is the amount of oxygen you have circulating in your blood.
The normal findings for oxygen saturation should be between 90 to 100. Anything below 90 should be taken as an index, a high index, to check what is causing the saturations to be high.
Most times, your temperature will stay around the same level, though body temperature can change depending on your activity level. However, temperatures above 37 degrees Celsius should raise concern.
Normal temperature should be between 36 to 37.5. Anything above 37.5 is indicating that the patient has a high temperature, and a causative cause should be determined when the patient sees the doctor.
Weight is only one of the many determinants of health. Body mass index, that is BMI, which measures weight standardized for height, is often used as a measure of health risk. Do you want to lose weight or adopt a healthy lifestyle, or better still, take an annual health checkup? On Word on the Street, we get to hear some of the views from the public.
For me, I've already done like blood pressure. You have to test your blood pressure if you're okay, and also your breathing system if you're okay also. And in terms of gym, mostly for me, I'm aiming at 70 kgs. That weight, you know, most of the time, like for us men, when they see you have like a small body, they can underrate you. But what matters is your brain health. You have also to check your brain health. Yes, like, are you okay upstairs?
I think this year, I don't know whether I've eaten a lot, but I feel I'm heavier than I was before. So I would like to improve on that, maintain my health, and I want to work on my health.
Maybe eating healthy, eating some fruits, morning runs, you know. The gym is too expensive, so yeah, just normal walks and eating healthy, yeah.
Mimi adhi yangu naweza kuhimiza watu waende gym, wajenge mwili upate hawatapata na ugonjwa nyingi.
Mostly documentaries, when you see people like suffering from cancer, diabetes, diseases they could have prevented by maybe doing exercises or eating healthy, so yeah, avoid more junk. Yeah, just watching documentaries and media, yeah, seeing people suffering from diseases they could have avoided, yeah. That's what has inspired me.
You know, all these things, all problems we get into originate with sin. So when you sin, be sure there is a wages of sin. The wages of sin, the Bible says, is death. But before you die, you become sick, isn't it? So it impacts my life in the sense that without sin, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy. I'm happy, I'm peaceful.
And to take us through the importance of an annual health check is none other than Dr. Lilian Gekande. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Marie.
And happy 2025.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about why it's important to, do an annual checkup. It's the new year. It doesn't have to be in the new year, but yes, it's the new year, so people are setting new health goals. Dr. Lilian, we've seen there that when you come when you go to visit your general practitioner to take your annual health check, it's important to take your weight.
Yes.
It's important to take your height and your blood pressure. Before we delve into many other issues, maybe you could talk to us a little bit about weight, because that's becoming a very big problem with the issues of diabetes and obesity and all that.
Okay, so that's a good question. When you look at the vitals, when you go to the triage, you're taking the vital signs. And one of the vital signs is the weight, as you mentioned. And it has become an issue because when you look at the BMI, which is the body mass index, where you check your weight and divide by your height squared, it shows you where exactly you are at. Also shows the probability of suffering from a lifestyle disease or getting a lifestyle disease. So your weight is important because truncal weight, the central obesity, has been a culprit in lifestyle diseases. So when you talk about weight, that's exactly why it's important, because it affects your pressure, it affects your cholesterol levels, also increases the incidence of type 2 diabetes. So as you can see, it plays a very crucial role in terms of your lifestyle. So that's why we look at the weight and why we also look at the BMI.
Yes. So, they say that high blood pressure is a silent killer.
Yes.
Many people are walking, today with very high blood pressure. And you kind of feel normal, but just break it down to us. What is high blood pressure? Maybe in layman's language, so that people get to understand. And what do those numbers mean? The diastolic and systolic.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you're looking at the pressure, blood pressure, high blood pressure, we talk about certain figures. So there is a general one where we say if it's beyond a certain figure, which is 140/90, then we say that you are likelihood of having high blood pressure. But however, these readings have to be 3 readings that are at least 6 hours apart. So it is an incidental finding. Most people are walking and are not aware. When we are looking at the pressures, we have the systolic and the diastolic. So the top part is the systolic, the lower part is the diastolic. So one is when the blood is pumping, which is the systolic. Diastolic is when we are relaxing. We are worried more about the diastolic aspect of it because it shows that then we are not relaxing. Your heart is not relaxing. So the higher it is, the higher the damage. So pressure is like, for example, when you're looking at a tap or you're looking at a pipe and there's a high level pressure and the low pressure, yeah? So if you have low pressure, the minimal damage, there's going to be minimal damage, even if you are directing it to a certain something, yeah? But if it's high pressure, and for example, you are directing at a glass or anything, the likelihood of having damage is higher. So the higher your pressure and the vessels are thickening out, yeah? And so whatever blood is passing, then there's high intensity pressure, which means the damage to the vessels are higher. And the most common culprits is the heart, the brain, and the kidneys. So that's why we call it a silent killer, because majority of the people, it will be incidental finding, and sometimes they are coming in with the early stroke or early heart attack. Yeah.
Okay. We'll be delving more into who needs to be concerned about their blood pressure, because as we age, different, annual checkups, there are certain, blood works that need to be done. So let's start first of all there. Why is it important for us to do, an annual checkup?
Okay, allow me to start with the WHO definition of health, where we talk about being a state of physical, social, and mental well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. So you can see we are not equating this to a disease, and that's why the annual wellness checkup is extremely important. It also makes sure that you are more intentional about your health, and you become your first doctor. So when you coming in for an annual wellness checkup, what we are looking at is looking at markers, looking at the tests, screening, yeah? And screening will help us identify a disease or an impending disease quite early before we get to the point of the curative medicine. And the future, again, of medicine is preventive medicine. So that's why annual wellness is so important, because it brings in the preventive aspect of medicine.
Mm-hmm. You know, we normally hear this, like the phrase, what you don't know doesn't hurt or kill you.
Yeah.
How true is that when it comes to your health?
Well, no, it's not true, because actually what you don't know might kill you. And it breaks so many doctors' hearts when they get to see a patient. For example, common cancers like breast cancer, colorectal cancer, cervical cancer, prostate cancer, all this you can get to know them early, and the treatment intervention would actually save you, add you more years. But that notion of what I don't know will not kill me, that's the problem we face when it comes to early screening.
So there are particular, can I say, conditions or diseases that women of a certain age should be concerned about, or men of a certain age. Maybe you could take us through, and how many times should we then do our annual health checkup?
Okay, so allow me to start with the last one. So annual wellness should be done annually. So you don't have to do it twice, you only do it once a year. If you don't manage to do it yearly, you can do it biannually. Yeah, so that's the importance of doing the wellness check. When it comes to male, female, allow me to break it down looking at the cancer statistics. For example, in Kenya, the first 3 cancers that affect women: breast cancer, cervical cancer, and colorectal cancer. While in men, it's lung cancer, prostate cancer, and also colorectal cancer. So looking at the age groups, for example, a 20-year-old might not be bothered so much about cancer markers compared to a 50-year-old. A 20-year-old would be more concerned about their sexual transmitted diseases, so they do the cancer STD screening, maybe check their blood sugars as well, their liver function tests, because most of us at that age of 20 to 30 years will tend to abuse alcohol a lot. You look at 30 to 40 years, that's when now we bring in the cancer markers, and especially depending on the risk factors coming from your background, the genetics, and also your weight issues, maybe lifestyle diseases as well. So that's when now we look at some things. So for example, for women, we normally advise that they check for HPV, which is a human papilloma virus, and that is a causative agent for cancer of the cervix. We have the pap smear as well, which will help with the early detection of cancer of the cervix as well. For the breast, we have the mammogram that we advise women to do. And for the men, then we also have, especially above 40 years, to do the prostate cancer antigen, the PSA specific antigen. So when they're asking about what we talk about tumor markers and why they are important, it is because they're not definitive, they're not specific, but they're specific to some cancers. So these tumor markers then are chemical substances produced by the body when it's trying to fight the cancer, or by that specific cancer. So those are the things that we normally advise the clients to do.
Okay.
Yes.
So between 20 to 30, then by the time you're 40 to 50,
Yes.
or and onwards, then checking for these, screening for cancer is very important.
And also your organs. Yes.
Yes, and organs, and that's what we are coming to.
Yes.
Because it's one thing to do the physical exam, but it doesn't tell you everything. So when somebody does the blood works, what exactly are you looking at?
Okay, so when you're looking at the blood work, we look at there's a test called complete blood count, which shows a general picture of the blood. Yeah, so it will look at HB levels, which normally predict anemia or show about your low HB levels. We also have the platelets in it. Then we also have liver function test. The liver function test entails around 6 or so types of enzymes produced by the liver. So if there is any damage to the liver cells or the gallbladder, then we would be able to pick issues from that liver function. In the kidney function test, we check the creatinine and also the electrolytes, but mostly we look at the creatinine levels, because the creatinines, if there is any issue with it, then it can tell us about if you're getting into kidney failure or not. And then we have the lipid profile, which checks the types of cholesterol, And we have 4 types of cholesterol in it. So we have total, we have high density, low density, and triglycerides. High density will be cardioprotective, protect you more. LDL and triglycerides is what we worry about because they'll tend to line around the blood vessels. So that's when we check. And then now we look at the random blood sugar, glycosylated hemoglobin, which tells us about the probability of getting diabetes or your sugar controls for the last 3 or so months. So those are the general tests that we do, and a urine test as well, and a stool microscopy, just to check about the stool. Nowadays, we also advise people, especially above 40 years and history of colon cancer in the family, to do a fecal blood test where it's checked through the stool. So that also helps to know whether someone needs to go for colonoscopy or not, or we need to follow up closely. So those are some of the screening tests. There are quite a number. And now sometimes the cancer markers that we talked about, where we check for colon cancer, we check for breast cancer, we check for tumor markers for the pancreatic cancer as well, among others.
Of course, there are many other conditions other than just cancer that your annual, medical checkup can actually detect. Yes. But let's emphasize on something that you mentioned with the young people, and that is the STDs, because right now, the data is showing that especially HIV is actually very high among the young people. So maybe just emphasizing to them that that is one of the things, not just them, but even for the adults, but because they're the most affected, it's important for actually to check and know your HIV status.
Yes. So I think the recent data was really shocking, and looking at the most affected age group between 15 to 24 years, and these are university students, high school students, so that can tell us a lot. Actually, the funny part is that majority of the people do check their HIV, but they don't do the other STD screening that you can actually get through sexual transmission. So we have hepatitis B, we have herpes, and all these are lifetime diseases. Only that the focus and the spread of the disease is not as bad as the one for HIV. We also have syphilis as well. So for young people, they need to get to know their human HIV status. Now, a majority of the people will tell their partners to go and check and then come and meet up and everyone to have their results. We advise that you go to the VCT, which is free, and they should do the screening test there. However, if possible, they should do a whole STD screening, because some of these things like herpes and hepatitis, not only are they lifetime diseases, but they also come in their own consequences. Like herpes is very painful, and it's a cyclical thing, which you have to be on medication for the rest of your life. For the herpes, when you get hepatitis B, you have a likelihood of suffering from liver cancer later on in life. So these are avoidable if we do the STD screening early and not only HIV tests.
And like you emphasize, it's supposed to be individual. So if your partner comes and says, see, I'm negative, that doesn't mean that those are your results.
And the window phase, normally what we do is the antigen test. We don't do the antibody test because the antigen test is free, the antibody test is expensive. So for the antigen test, it can miss the window period. Antibody will be able to pick. Majority of young people cannot afford the antibody test, and it's because it's done to confirm when it's positive. So that's the other thing as well. So partners also should be aware that there's a window period. So my advice would be, once you do the HIV test, at least repeat it after a month, and if possible, in between, use protection.
Okay. Yeah. Now, other than just doing an annual medical checkup, nutrition is very, very key. They say you either take your food as medicine or medicine as food. So you choose your hard, Yes. So maybe you could talk to us also about nutrition. Okay. And not just nutrition, but making it a lifestyle also.
Yeah, it's very hard, because that's one of my goals in 2025. Yeah, to be more intentional about what I eat. Nutrition is 80%. So most of us will go to the gym and then we spend a lot of time, maybe during the day I take a lot of junk food and then I say I'm going to burn it in the gym. The problem is that I will spend more time burning the carbohydrates and the fats I've taken and not exactly achieving what I want to achieve. So if we know 80% is nutrition, 20% is exercise, then we become more intentional. So for the nutrition aspect of it, we tend to take a lot of carbohydrates in the Africa society. Just look at weddings and functions, yeah, and less proteins and less veggies as well. So my advice is that let's focus on taking more proteins and more veggies, and also, if possible, see a nutritionist so that they can have a diet plan for you, because it's also dependent on your lifestyle, the kind of work that you do, which will also help you to be able to break it down and be able to have achievable goals with nutrition.
So thank you so much, Dr. for taking your time to talk to us about the importance of, an annual health check and what it entails. And just as we've had when, Dr. Lilian Gikandi has already explained, it's important for you to take matters into your hands and, be able to go for that, annual health checkup. Your body is the first indicator of your health. On a Good Practice Day, Dr. Lilian Gikandi explains.
Hello, I'm Dr. Lilian Gikandi. On Good Practice today, we talk about telltale signs of specific conditions, what your body tells you. Your body is your temple, so you would be the first doctor to know something is wrong. So what do you look at? When you're looking at your eyes can tell us a lot. Your eyes can tell you about your iron levels. Your eyes can tell you about the liver. So if you look at this part, you would see that maybe you have low HB levels. If you look at the upper part, you would look at and see if you see some yellowness, it would tell you maybe there's an issue with the liver. You look at your mouth, it can tell you about your HB levels, your blood levels. It can also tell you about your oxygen levels as well. Looking at under the tongue, when it's about bluish, blackish, can tell you. But some people have something called a geographical tongue, where normally the color might be a bit different from the rest. So seek a second opinion if you're worried. Now, looking at things that we talk about, like high blood pressure, what do you look at? Sometimes you would get a headache that could be at the parts, maybe globally, and maybe at the back of your head. Sometimes you get a dizzy spell, that something that just seems like a passing wind. Sometimes you can also feel like you're getting a bit of pain on your left side, which we normally talk about something called angina. When you're looking at issues to do with your blood sugars, what do you look at? For example, maybe you have a history of diabetes, and sometimes for young children, you'll notice weight loss. You'll also notice that they are having hair loss as well. The other thing that most people suffer from, they will have excessive thirst. Someone is taking more than 5 liters of water a day, and they also have excessive urination. They are also eating a lot, but also losing a lot of weight. Looking at the thyroid, you can sometimes feel a bit tired or not too tired, or maybe active or not active. So maybe thyroid function tests are very important to get checked. So those are some of the few things that we look at when you're looking at your own health and good practices in health.
We've come to the end of the program. It's been my pleasure hosting you on our first show on health and lifestyle. My name is Marie Yambo, and on behalf of everyone who has made this program possible, of course, Dr. Lilian Gikandi, who has explained the importance of taking an annual health checkup and also what to expect when you visit your general practitioner. We hope to see you again next time, and if you've missed any part of this program, you can always head to our YouTube channel.